Hello everyone. Today is 2025, May 27th, a Tuesday, and you know what that means. Time to dive into another fascinating find from the archives. Feels like I'm just talking to myself here, but hey. So, the pick I've got dusted off for us today is, the title is, The Staircase of Ethics. Probing all value priorities to multi-step induction to complex moral dilemmas. The call is, Linux Eve. Or quite Eve 5.80,154 them. But stick with me, this one's a goodie. Alright, so what's this all about? Well, these large language models, or CUMs, are popping up everywhere, helping make decisions, even in pretty serious stuff like resume screening or psychological counseling. The big hiccup is, how do you know if the moral compass is, pointing in the right direction, especially when things get complicated. The problem as paper tackles is that most ways we check on one's ethics are like giving them a single pop quiz, but real-life moral problems, if they're just one step, they evolve, new information comes in. The stakes get higher. Anyways, change their thinking based on this evolving mess. But we were really checking if phones could do the same. It's like their moral reasoning was being tested down really. So, these researchers Wu and the team, they came up with something called multi-step moral dilemmas and, fancy with a dataset of big WAM at over 3,000 dilemmas, and each dilemma unfolds over 5 stages. Imagine a staircase, each step making the ethical choice a bit trickier. This lets them see how always adjust their moral judgments as things escalate. Think of it like this. They give an example about finding a wallet. Step 1. You find a wallet, you need money should you return it. Honesty versus personal need, a classic. But then in step 2, the stranger claims the wallet, but they don't seem to know what's in it. What now? Step 3, the stranger pulls a knife. Now it's honesty versus self-preservation. See how it builds? That's what they're putting these combs through. They build these dilemmas using existing moral stories as a base, and then got for another AI to generate these 5-step scenarios. But to figure out what values are caching ethics versus fairness, loyalty versus liberty, they used established frameworks like moral foundations theory as theory of basic values. They even have multiple columns labeled the values in each choice, and if the eyes couldn't agree, humans stepped in. Smart. Now, what did they find a popular to the test? Well, turns out algorithms do change their value preferences as dilemmas get harder. It's not like they pick one rule and stick to it, no matter what. They sort of break. For example, they often start by prioritizing the value of care, like helping someone. But as things get more complex, fairness might become more important. This shows their ethical reasoning is dynamic, which is pretty interesting. And at the big takeaways, and this is a bit of a mind bender, is that minds don't seem to operate on stable, consistent moral principles, like a human ideally would. Instead, their choices look more like they're making statistically good guesses, based on the context of that specific step. It even shows something called non-transitive preferences, like, on the poll I prefer over B, and B over C. But then I'll prefer over C, weird, right? It suggests they're using local heuristics, not some grand moral code. So, why should we care about this? Well, if phones are helping in real-world decisions, you need them to be, ethically robust. For instance, in automated content moderation, and COM might initially flag a comment based on a simple rule. But if it could consider multiple steps like user intent or evolving context, it might make a more nuanced and fair decision. That first glance could be misleading without the full picture. But think about card belts used for mental health support. The person might describe a simple problem at first, but as they share memory, living in layers of complexity, maybe family pressures or past traumas, then that needs to adapt its responses. It can't just stick to its initial, simplistic understanding. This multi-step awareness could make it a much better listener, even in something like high-assisted legal or financial advice. A scenario might seem straightforward initially, but as more facts emerge, like in a legal case, the ethical considerations can shift dramatically. A model that can follow these stacks of complexity would be far more reliable than one stuck on its first impression. It needs to weigh new evidence and adjust its reasoning. Compared to other methods, which were mostly single-shot questions or dilemmas, this multi-step approach is much closer to how humans grapple with tough choices. There's older methods, they just didn't capture this evolving nature, as paths depending on moral thinking. So this staircase of ethics is a big step forward, no pun intended. Of course, the researchers point out some limitations, The moral frameworks they used are mostly Western intra-cran, so might not capture ethical views for other cultures perfectly, and the way the dilemmas escalate is pretty linear. Now, real-world conflicts can be way messier, even be weighted sometimes. Plus, the big question, do rulers actually have values, or are they just mimicking? That's still up for debate. But overall, this is super important work. It's pushing us to think harder about how we evaluate AI ethics, and hopefully build AIs that are more aligned with human values, even when the going gets tough. Phew. That was a lot to unpack. Hope you found that as intriguing as I did. Catch you on the next one.